Inga mana, inga reo, e rau rangatira mā, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. And good evening and welcome to Auckland Conversations tonight. Can I begin with an apology? I've managed to get myself triple booked tonight, 3 different speeches, but fortunately all in this building. So I hope, Matts, I can hear the first part of your presentation before I need to rush off to the next function I'm attending. I regret I can't be here for the whole thing because I think what we are looking at tonight is a critical issue for Auckland. It's literally a life and death issue. We celebrated for a long time a fall in the road toll. There was a time when 800 people or more a year were dying on our roads, and we thought we were on top of the problem, but in the last 4 years, the steady decline in road fatalities has turned around, and we've seen a worsening trend. That is something that we cannot be complacent about. That is something that we must address, and that is why tonight's meeting is so important. Can I first of all acknowledge our Master of Ceremonies, Dr. Lester Levy. There are a lot of reasons why Lester is the ideal person to be the chair tonight. He is, of course, the chair of Auckland Transport, and he understands the transport issues, including road safety in Auckland, as well as anyone from that perspective. But he's also the Chief Executive Officer of 3 district health boards, and he understands the consequences, the human and health consequences of failing to get on top of our road toll. So, Lester, I'm looking to you, no pressure, I'm looking to you to make the recommendations around the actions that our council and our government need to enact in order to reduce and hopefully eliminate our road toll. I'd also like to welcome tonight the chair of the Waitemata Local Board, Pippa Coombe, and Pippa and I were at a function last night and she was giving me a preview of tonight, and I know that she is an absolutely strong advocate for the program that we are talking about tonight, Vision Zero. Can I also acknowledge other elected representatives that are here? I haven't been around everywhere, so I dare not start mentioning names because I will omit some, but very good to have members of the local boards around Auckland participating tonight. But of course, most of all, I'd like to welcome our special guest tonight, Matts-Åke Belin. Matts is a citizen and a resident of Sweden, but he has a very special role, and that is as an advisor to the Mayor of New York, Bill de Blasio, to the American federal government. I don't know whether he has any connection with the President, but if he does, good luck. And also an advisor to the United Nations on this issue of Vision Zero. So we could not be more privileged to have a better speaker and a better insight into those topics. Vision Zero, of course, promotes the view that no loss of life on the roads is acceptable. Dr. Belin will explore how Vision Zero works and what Vision Zero in Auckland could look like. Leastways, that's what I hope you're going to do, Matts. He'll share with all of us road design and engineering solutions that will also make our roads safer. Could I also, to begin with, acknowledge the members of the panel tonight and welcome them here. Andrew Allen, the Chief Transport Operations Officer at Auckland Transport, Carolyn Perry, the Development Director at Brake, and Dr. Rhys Jones, a Public Health Specialist at Auckland University. This afternoon, as I was just thinking about the event tonight, I had the opportunity to watch a video produced by Victoria Roads in Australia. I don't know whether any of you have seen it, but it's a particularly good video. They're doing an interview with a man. He could be any member of the general public. And he's told that the road fatality rate in Victoria last year, not 2016, was 291. He was then asked what would be a more acceptable number. And he shrugs, hadn't really thought about the question. He said, oh, maybe 70. Now, maybe he could be forgiven for that because 70 would be a quarter of the rate of road fatalities in Victoria last year. And then the facilitator of the meeting calls in 70 people to stand up at the front of an audience. And you see mums, dads, children, you see grandparents, you see grandchildren, you see members of the family, and you see their faces. And they are not statistics. They are human beings. And the man, as any of us would in his position, looks absolutely devastated. And he's asked the question again, what would be an acceptable number? And he gives the answer that I hope all of us would give tonight, and that acceptable number is 0. I, along with many other New Zealanders, have confronted the tragedy of road fatalities in my own family. I was in my early 20s and I was pallbearer for a niece, aged 7, at a funeral in which my uncle was also buried. And they called it a road accident. But it wasn't an accident. He and his daughter were killed by a person that chose to drink and then to drive. It was no accident. It was almost an inevitability at the amount of alcohol that he had consumed. It was the deliberate act of drinking and driving, and that is one of our major problems. Speed on the road. And probably, if we're honest, we're all guilty of that. It's about inattention. It's about poor road design and other factors. All of them lead to disastrous consequences. I looked up the statistics for Auckland. In Auckland, one person on average a day gets hit by a motor vehicle while they're out walking, and every third day that person dies or is seriously injured. Last year in Auckland, there were 46 people killed on our roads and 610 seriously injured. These are not statistics, these are human beings. And every one of those 46 people who died was an absolute tragedy for their friends and their family. There's a lot that we can and must do to prevent this, and tonight's discussion, I hope, will point to the directions we need to follow to achieve Vision Zero. It's not that it hasn't been tried elsewhere. Stockholm and New York have both shown just what can be achieved when we approach this problem with absolute determination. There are, of course, costs associated with implementing Vision Zero, but you can guarantee that those costs are nowhere near the magnitude of the human and social costs of the carnage on our road, and even the economic consequences which run into billions of dollars. So thank you very much for coming along here tonight. Thank you, Matts, for being our special guest speaker tonight, and thank you to all of the panel members, and I'll ask you to join with me in welcoming those people to tonight's Auckland Conversations. Nō reira, tēnā koutou katoa.